Thank you very much. Welcome to the presentation of the Ebama event. Like already said, this is a European Erasmus Plus project from the education. We had 7 partners in all of Europe, and they already said some names. Belgium is the coordinator of the project, and then we have Germany, Spain, Estonia, Crete, Italy and Finland. And the aim of the project was to identify different forms of agricultural broadening, and we had to examine it by visiting different farms in the whole of Europe. So this is the key word of Ebama. So you had some problems finding it, but it's you know with European projects you always have to have an acronym for projects, and then you have to be very creative for it. So that's why it's such a complicated name. The map of our partners, the choice of our partners is in first you choose your partners in European projects because they are reliable. You need reliable partners in such projects. In fact, it's a project that has a time of 3 years. So you have to work together in 3 years, and you have to have good partners. But besides that, the location of our partners in the whole of Europe was very good, because we had a very good spreading over all Europe, and in that case we had a different cultural, socio-economical and historical background of the farms, and that was very interesting also in the research of the different farms. Why did we start this project? One of the main reasons to start this project, I was before a teacher in an agricultural school, and my experience is that the young people are not attracted to agriculture anymore. They are forced in it, but it's not always a positive decision in our country to choose for agriculture. So I was thinking, how can we make agriculture, how do you say it, more attractive again for the young people. And so I came to the theme of the broadening aspect, while a lot of farms already start now with broadening in Belgium, and they have a good future also for young people. So that was a very good reason why we could start this project. We all know that agriculture has several challenges in this time. With the free market, prices are going up, going down. It's very riskful, and also we have the trend of new farmers. I will tell you about later. Social trends and demands, animal care and so on. It's a very complicated situation where I think broadening agriculture will be a solution for some people in the future. This is, for example, also in Germany we saw a graph of the income of a farmer during a year, and besides that we saw what he was needed during a year. So in future farmers will have the half of the income of their farm for what they need. So half of the income must come from somewhere else. And what are the possibilities then? The different pathways you can do is doing nothing, but that is that's a problem, or not. But in opposite of broadening, we have a very intensification of agriculture, and that is not always the option, because of the environment, because of animal care, we have a lot of discussions also in Belgium about that. So this is also not an option, abandoned, but it exists in Belgium. Yeah, a lot of farmers has to close their farm. They have no succession because the son don't want, or the daughter don't want to succeed. They want to do something else. Agriculture is not attractive anymore. So the only possibility lays in between these two options. And what is the difference? Here you are broadening your activities on the farm, and here you are doing other activities. For example, the man or the wife is going to work someone else. And when you compare these two, this is the other gainful activity, and this is the farm diversification. You see very interesting differences in Europe. You see in the south of Europe, a lot of farms are choosing to have diversification. In the middle part, they do the both, but not in that big amount. And for example, here Finland, you see that they rather have diversification than choose for another job. Yeah? But the very interesting thing is that in the south of Europe, you see that farm diversification, the red color, is more than 20%. Yeah, you see that there is a very interesting difference in Europe.
Why is it so? Is it harder to be a farmer in the south?
I think it has to do with the social environment. In the south, they are more used to have short chain extractions. For example, in Crete, they produce their products and they sell it at the same time. There is no market in between. And the more you go in the center of Europe, you have interventors who sell the products and so on. So the choice is to go to diversification is made easier in the south of Europe because of the situation. It's typical situation. Yeah. So please feel free to ask. Please interrupt me. What is a broadening? When you, I don't want to start a semantic discussion about that, because as well as in literature as in the real world, multiple activities or broadening is crossing each other. You cannot say this is broadening, this is multiple activities. It is crossing between each other. But to make it clear, when you want to start from the conventional agriculture, you have three options. You can deepening, intensifying, and you can broad, and you can also reground. Reground is to reform the farm to something else. But in a lot of cases we visited, the broadening aspect and the multiple activities are crossing each other, so you cannot draw a line between it. It's very difficult. Even in literature, they're using it through each other. To have some frame, and they use it a lot in these scholars. For example, in Germany, they like to use this also for genetic manipulation. They use the red manipulation, green manipulation, white manipulation, and also in diversification of agriculture they use all those colors. But it's very useful because then you can place it in some frame. The reality. We always try to do that, place the reality in some frames to better understand it. So, yeah, what is family farming? This is something we had to define, to have a goal to see what kind of farms do we visit. Not the industrial farms, but we are going to concentrate, focus on the family farms. Because there is the problem at this time in the whole of Europe and also in the whole of the world. Family farming is a very important kind of farming, so we have to take care of it, and not only about the youngsters, but in the whole of it. Family farming has a very important role, plays a very important role in forming the landscapes, in the environment, in producing food. 70% of the food production is by family farming in the whole of the world. So it's a very important kind of farming we have to support. I already said why we did the project, but in fact what do we want to aim with the project is to find competences we need to give our youngsters to be able to broaden in the future. It's very important to define those competences. So 3 years of project, and we visited just now 40 firms, companies, farms. We had a lot of visits, a lot of impressions, and I want to share this with you. This is the model in the beginning of the project we used, and we thought we could say, now we are going to visit a firm who is working about marketing. Now we are going to visit a firm who has a specialty about water management. But in reality, that doesn't exist. A lot of farms do a lot of multiple activities, and one farm can be in this region, can be in that region, can be in this region. So the model that we used in the beginning of the project was becoming flu. Okay, some experiences. The last visit we had last summer in in September, was in Spain. A lot of photos, and I give you some impression. This is the granate apple. Why a picture of the granate apple? Because in Spain they have interest in some alternative cultures. They have the oranges, but besides that they are searching for other cultures. These are traditional cheese making and selling on the farm. We have also here a sheep farm who was working very industrial, because they were having how do you say, very good sheep. The bad sheep were throwing away, and the good sheep they hold. Was a limit of family farming, I have to say. Then we have a lot of wineries, family farms who did grapes, and at the same time did made the wine. And here we have also a farm who was specialized in inviting youngsters during the vacation. They had a capacity of 200 to 300 youngsters they could have in one time. This is the palm tree, and I will tell you about later. Also, some forms of agriculture are collecting things that are in nature, and also here, for example, in Finland and in Estonia, we experienced it by for example, the birch water is also an example of collecting something that is already in nature. So also that is a form of broadening that we found through Europe. This was you cannot show it on a picture, but there are things like that. Family farm, and they had the broadening aspect. They cultivated that, and they did also the marketing thing afterwards, because it was more interesting for their income. We also visit Finland. What was so typical in Finland, the link with nature was very typical here in Finland. And I already told you about the birch. This basket is remembering me that we were in nature, walking in nature, and also collecting things that were present in the natural environment. Very special is we had a tomato warehouse here in Finland. It's not so normal that we have this kind of things in the cold regions of Europe. But this is an example of someone who was trying to find a unique product and try to sell it a good qualitative product in the region. Is also very recognizable in a lot of broadening aspects. Then we had a turkey farm, also is like similar, a unique product to sell. And of course we had here the machinery for wood. Also we had a sheep farm, and I heard the owner of the sheep farm is present on the boat today. But okay. He went away, he was actually here. Okay. And then also selling little things also collected in nature and so on, like honey and so on, is also very typical that we found here in Finland. Our visit in Crete, and then I can say about the question, very typical in Crete is that they are very proud on their own products. They don't want to change their own products. For example, they have some milking goats and making cheese of it. And when we said, you can approve the goats, they can give more milk, they said no, we don't want that, because then we have a kind of goat that walks in the wild and is not adapted to nature. So we keep our land race of goats, and they're more important for us than improving the product. Not improving the product, improving the production. A higher production, they say, we don't need a higher production, we need a good product, and we like our land race, it's very typical for us. So, and that's also the link. They sell their things locally, so they want to have the label of we have local products to offer you, and that's why in Southern Europe they like to diversify a lot. But the oranges, also very typical for the southern part of Europe. They are looking for other ways to cultivate it, because the price of the oranges is also very declining, and they are searching for new forms of income. And what they are doing today is they plant avocado trees in between the orange trees, and they have it's not a symbiosis, but they have a very positive effect to each other. And the avocados are selling at a higher price, so they can hire their income from the same area. That's the thing. Also wine you find everywhere. Wine. Here you have a local brewery in the middle of an orange tree area. There was a brewery there, and okay, he was brewing beer like everywhere, but he was also looking, how can I put some taste of oranges into my beer, and how will the customer find that? Is it tasteful? So he was experimenting with his own beer. It was also interesting how he thought about it. And then we have also there was a monastery in it was not a typical farm, but we visited it anyway. And they are also producing things, but in a very environmental kind way, and they were also educating youngsters in their monastery about agroecology. I was searching for that. Sorry. Italy, somewhere the same history, locally sold products, winery, and also agritourism was there, and also a big factor in Italy was farmers who are making alternative energy, biogas energy, and also the pyrolysis of wood. For example, that could also be an option in regions where there is a lot of wood. By pyrolysis, you can create some alternative energy. Here you have the crocus for saffron, and it was a nice family farm, and that was a nice example of a farm who was doing a lot of diversifications. They were, in fact, they were choosing the saffron to have a unique product, and that was the daughter who was doing that together with the father. The mother had a local market to sell all the products, and the son was doing agritourism. He was taking the customers and making bicycle tracks with them. So it was a very diversified farm, grown out of a very traditional farm, in fact, because before they were cultivating other things. Then we had Germany, and typical in Germany is we were there in the region of the hops and the asparagus. There, it was difficult there to find some broadening agriculture, but in fact they were broadening also because from out there they are the biggest region of hops. They are producing next to Czechia and the United States. They have the highest production of hops to make beer, but they were also changing all of the cultivation of hops to something locally, because they experienced that a lot of microbreweries were coming out of the ground, so they had to make other races of hops to also make unique products for microbreweries, and that was also a challenge for them to broaden. In fact, the asparagus, there was the property was there to have a unique product and to have label. In that region, you have a lot of labels for asparagus, but one important factor we experienced there was the human researchers. They are working, also the hops, but also asparagus. They are working a lot with seasonal workers, and the farmers experienced that they need some competences to go with seasonal to work with seasonal workers. It was very typical there. This is also the alternative energy, biogas installations that they use. And here some unique product. It's called hay milk. Hay milk. The cows, they just are fed with hay. They get nothing more. And they told that the milk had a certain taste, but we didn't taste it, but the belief makes a lot, I think. Okay. And also here, it's not it's a picture. It's also involving artistic things in the region and sell agriculture by in an artistic way. It's also a kind of diversification.
You, John, remember the milk producers in Bavaria you remember the price that they got more for this
Yeah.
certain milk? Do you remember how much it was?
No,
I think it was about
it was a lot. Yeah.
10 cents per liter.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was really a lot.
Yeah, that's why you have to sell a unique product to get. But that's the general tale of the whole. That's of the whole of the story is to have a unique product, so you can ask more money for the product. Yeah.
But that was the thing that was for the producer, not for the grocery store. For the
Yeah.
producer.
Yeah. 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 Then we had also a visit in Estonia, and typical in Estonia as this historical background. It was very typical because a lot of farmers there had the background of the Soviet period, and it was very interesting how they went in different ways. This woman here, she lived in the city, and one day she gets the notice that she inherited a lot of land because her grandelders had that land before, but in the Soviet period the land was taken to form kolkhoz and sovkhoz systems, and they lost their land, so the next generations went to the city. But after the Soviet period, all the land was given back to the people. They owned it before, so she inherited land that was from her grandelders. And from one day to the other, she stood for the problem: what will I do with all that land? I can sell it, okay. But she made another choice, and she said, okay, I will move from the city to the land, and I will become a farmer. And this is an example of new farmers, what we do. In other countries, but this with an historical background. And she said, okay, when I'm going back to the countryside, I'm not going to do the traditional way of agriculture, but I'm going to find a unique product. And she was selling herbs. She was cultivating herbs, selling herbs, and she had also a store where she sold the tea and all the herbs that she dried. That was one story. This story is quite similar. It was a son who inherited a fishery of his father, but his father worked in the kolkhoz, sovkhoz system, and there, you know, in that period when you had your production, you had to have that amount of production, and when you had it, it was enough. So the son inherited after the Soviet period all of the fishery, but came into another system, not in a communist economical system, but he came in a free market system. So he had to reinvent all of the system to have higher productions it was a trout. In most of the fish they were cultivating, there was trout. So the son has to restudy everything, and in fact he was more educated than the researchers in the fishery. He was an example for universities and research stations, and he was specialized in cultivating trout. So you see two backgrounds of Soviet period, and they went in a different way. This man was also interesting. He had an apple cultivation, and he said, okay, apples, I can sell a lot of apples and my income will be okay, but I can increase my income by this is an example of deepening. He was creating from his apple, he was creating cider, and he did it on the method champenoise. The same like they make champagne, same method. And he was selling his product to the local restaurants and could sell a unique product with also a high price. So, but very interesting, but also risky, because we asked him what will happen when this doesn't work anymore, and he said, okay, then I'm failed, and then I lost all my money. So he took a big risk there, but also very typical for new farmers. They take the risk, they jump into the hole and they do it, and then they work for it. And okay, fishery also, and here biological farmer. It was like that time when he put on the, how do you say the in English, where you put all the organic waste on it.
Manure.
Manure, yeah, the manure, and he took it, and all the worms were seen. So he tells me, look, it's very healthy. A lot of animals are in it. This is something totally different. Was also a farm who did one social farming, and also at the same time they did some alternative building constructions with natural products. And this was our first visit in Belgium 3 years ago, where we focused on the social farming. And I understood today in Ulmia we have also we can also visit some green care farms. We had that also in Belgium, and that was the focus, so we didn't make a lot of changes in that program. Very indicating was the role of the woman in the farms there. They had a very important role in the social aspects of the farm. And not only they work with disabled people, but also they work, for example, with students who have problems on school and will choose for a timeout project, they call it. So that was in fact the first visit we made in Belgium. Also the educating factor, I translated. Did you know that a cow has to have a calf before she can give milk? Looks very logical to us, I think, but a lot of people in Belgium don't know that anymore. So we have to re-educate the youngsters a lot. They think that milk comes from a supermarket. You know that story, I think. This was a CSA farm. I don't know if you know that kind of farms. It's a community supported agriculture. There's a kind of farming where the farmer gets money in the beginning of the season, say 300 euros, and a family for 300 euros, they can, during a whole year, they can collect vegetables, fruits on the farm, and only the farm takes care of all the cultivations, but the harvesting is done by the customers themselves. They're paying 300 euros. It's a kind of giving money in before the thing. It's a kind of investment, and then the farmer can work with that money, cultivates different things, and then the customers can collect it. And at the same time, the woman there had also a little restaurant where she uses the locally cultivated products on the farm and sell them also. This was also social farming combined with a store with meat. Was also having a meat store. Okay. So these were some impressions, and now during the project we had a lot of impressions, and I shared them with you already. But what are the conclusions of this project? It was difficult. We had a lot of expressions, and I already told you gender influences, diversification was the rule, not one kind of diversification, but a lot of diversifications. What we encountered also with the farmers is they have alternative kinds of thinking about economic systems, environment. They also have some philosophy. Why should I work harder? I'm happy now. Why should I gain more money? I'm happy now. So it was a balance, a good balance of life they were searching for. Very important what we experienced in Europe, and I hope we can hear that also in Sweden today, is for the care farms you need some support, some external support to have these things, because it's not easy to have that kind of farms without external support, because you need a lot of competencies to run a farm like that. Why do a lot of farms choose to have diversification? Because mainly they want to have a financial independence. That is the main motivation to have diversification in agriculture. A very important question that was asked in Belgium, because in Belgium farmers want to have their land from their own. Is it important to own land or to hire land? Because when you own land, you put a lot of money in it, and perhaps it's only for one generation. So is this a good balance? And the next question is relate to it. Does we have to keep the farm for our children? Are we forcing our children to succeed on the farm, to have a succession on the farm? Yeah, okay, family farming is the support of the whole family. It's like a logical thing, but it was very typical that in all the family farms we visited, all of the family was engaged, was motivated to have a good thing about the farm. And okay, also in the classical ways of farming we have an accent on quality, but the more in these kind of farms, quality was the most important thing they were looking for. Yeah, wide possibilities. A very important thing also in broadening was a reason why a lot of farms were broadened, besides the financial independence, was contact with society. It was a social factor that made that farmers were felt social isolated and had the need to broaden their farm to have contact with society again. It was very typical also. Yeah, you can read. I will not say everything. I already said this thing. Not pure shot. Yeah, jumping into the hole. English, very important language. Yeah, because a lot of knowledge that is used to broaden agriculture, they use also international research, international connections. So English is the most spread language, and so we felt that English is also a very important language to learn to improve your possibilities to diversify. I already said this, science to scientist with the trout cultivator. The entire chain, they want to control the entire chain, is also very typical. And we met a lot of young farmers who are broadening, so that gives some perspectives. Family, okay. The migration from city to the country, and then also very important is, nevertheless, when you don't have a story, make a story. You have to tell the people a story to be able to sell your product. They need a story today. So you have to be very creative. You cannot lie. You cannot be people who are buying your products that have a unique thing, they want to see the story about it. And sometimes the story is telling the philosophy. Why are you doing this as a farmer? And explain it. And this is a very important thing also to take with us in education. A unique product cooperation is also a very important factor we encountered with the visit of the farms. Farmers are not used to cooperate, and they need to cooperate in the future more and more. So it is a very important thing to focus on also in education. We need to learn our pupils to be open, exchange things, cooperate with each other, look for other things. It's very important. Yeah, use of IT instruments and books, self-taught attitude, looking for innovation, and in connection with attention to the workload, because that was also very typical. Farmers, they were very attentive for workload, and it has something to do with the philosophy of their farm. If it's not necessary, they will use automatization for it, but also after cost benefit things. Cooperatives already told. Regional project traditions, quality labels, also very important. And also having, when you are very near to cities, it's in a very important market for your products, but you have to know that it's a very demanding market, the cities. They will ask, when you sell meat, for example, they can ask, did the animals were treated well? Did they were fed well? Did they had enough space to live in? And all those questions will be asked in that kind of markets. And I think that demanding market is growing because society gets the same questions today. HR skills, already told you about that. Flexibility, okay. Also, and that was not only in Crete, but in the whole of Europe, all breeds are very attractive to give a new life again, to make a unique product of it. So there are also possibilities in that kind of things. Energy supply, already told. Yeah, I think that the most of those things I already told you. Innovation, don't be scared about it. Okay, the drone is a typical example we show you today, but there are only other things of innovation that we can, the collective thing with the barges, collecting from nature, honey, and so on. So, I showed you a lot of impressions, and now we come to the thing, how do we get this in education? How can we include this in our education? And it was, you can see the forest for the trees. With all those impressions, it was not easy. So we came to this model of competencies. It's called the iceberg model, and we experienced that a lot of competencies you cannot form. You have them or you have them not. So, okay, finished with education. We don't need education. Yes, we need education because you need to transfer skills and knowledge already. But what is our role for education when we come to motivation of a farmer, of the self-image of a farmer, the social role? I already also told you the gender thing is also something to plays a role in some differentiation. This is another picture of it, and you see
it's not that much ice outside. It's not that much ice in the sea.
Yeah, okay. It's the biggest thing is under the water. Yeah. So, but next to those things, we also experienced that a farmer who is broadening is becoming from a manager, managing the costs to have a better income, is becoming an entrepreneur to higher his income, not by reducing the cost, but higher his prices. And then the farmer is going to evaluate from a price taker to a price setter, and that is a very important thing we have to bring into education. There more and more where in the past we educated our pupils of reducing costs and manage all the bills and so on. Now they have to go on the market and set a price for their products, and that's the marketing aspect is coming into that, and that's very important to take with education. So how are we working now with all those things into education? First of all, we can learn our pupils a lot. We can give them knowledge, we can give them the skills. But the other thing we can do in education is to coach our students and have a lot of self-reflecting things, experience things to know what to do. So next to instruction, we have to give them a lot of practical experience, visit farms, experience why they are broadening, and then at the same time confronting the things with themselves. And that's why when you have this iceberg model, this is the easy part for education. This is the experience, the self-reflecting part, where you have to let pupils experience what they can and what they cannot. And if they have a certain competency that they don't have and will have, it's a hard conclusion, but then you have to say you're not able to broaden. That's so. Yeah, these are things you can teach. Developing a story. This is an example how you at first can orientate pupils in the broadening aspect. What kind of broadening is appealing to you? Do you like to interact with people? No. Can you broaden? Yes, you can broaden then, but then you have the only thing is the environmental aspect, agroecology. You don't need to have a lot of contacts with customers then, so that is also, but in fact when you like to interact with people and you like to handle with customers, you can have another question. Would you prefer to take care of people, youngsters, older ones, and so this is just an example. There are a lot of these trees you can find in literature. So and this is okay. What are the main competencies you need? And these are the competencies you need as an entrepreneur. There are a lot of them. So this is the last one. I think this time is okay. You can find all the data we had already. So the reports of the visit next to, I showed you some photos, but in 1 hour it's difficult to tell everything. But about the visit we made reports. We have additional data we had from universities and from our literature. We also made a curriculum for broadening agriculture. Also an educational guide who is focusing on the last part I showed you, the iceberg model, and a lot of photos. Yeah.